So, since our last show, the Royal Rumble took place in WWE, and the whole thing, of course, there was really no surprise with the two Rumble matches. Seth Rollins won the men's event, and will indeed take on Brock Lesnar. But the one we're going to talk about here is, of course, the women's match was won by Becky Lynch, who technically wasn't even in the match to begin with, but I'll get into that in just a moment. And of course, everyone is looking for, supposedly anticipating that, in fact, it's already been stated that Becky will challenge Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's Championship. Here's the catch. It's not been indicated specifically on WWE TV yet, but the rumors going around is that ultimately Charlotte will be added to the match as part of a triple threat match at WrestleMania. And of course, everyone is dreading this possibility online. Even friends of mine. This one smart wrestling fan that I ended up getting into an argument to just last night on Twitter, that of course ended up with him blocking me, but I might talk about him later, but I'm trying to put him out of my mind. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but basically everyone just wants Becky versus Ronda, one-on-one. Becky will kill Ronda, become, hands down, the most dominant woman in all of WWE and all of wrestling history, and this is going to squash over the entire women's division. My question is, where's the excitement and entertainment in that? And yes, this goes beyond my distaste for the direction they've taken Becky Lynch's character. This is more than that. There's a story here, and it's right there in front of them. And it starts with, believe me, I don't just look at this as a wrestling fan, and what I'd like to see, which is ultimately Becky do a full face turn. Whether you like it or not, she's supposed to be a heel in this whole thing, but it goes more than that. I look at this as a writer myself. And there's such a great storyline right in here that if you just put Becky and Ronda in a one-on-one match and then have Becky win and go solo, you're blowing a golden opportunity here. Here's what, believe me, the last 12 hours alone, this has been going through my head. 18 hours maybe. But this is how the biggest storyline in WWE right now is still Becky versus Charlotte. And it's not had any real closure yet. It can have that closure right now. I think I've talked about this before on this show. But it can still work. And it starts with them both being in the title match at WrestleMania. Here's how it works. Becky and Charlotte both take on Ronda in a triple threat match for the Women's Championship at WrestleMania. Here's the thing. They both have to lose. Ronda has to retain the title. As a result, Becky and Charlotte both go back to SmackDown, or maybe they'll both get put on the Raw Superstar Shakeup. There's different things they can do to get this thing to work. One is, eventually do make sure that Becky and Charlotte get on Raw through the shakeup one way or the other. And for what it's worth, there is one way that this can work if Becky only takes on Ronda by herself and wins the title, but it involves Charlotte going to Raw in the shakeup, and then you get the triple threat match, or even a fatal four-way. I'll get to that in a bit. And ultimately, one way or another, Becky and Charlotte neither has to have the title, and they have to be in a situation where they're starting to realize neither of them has the title, neither of them has each other. Their fighting and bickering has both left them with nothing. Now you're bringing a team like the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, who at this point in time, by WrestleMania, I would have the Iconics as the women's tag team champions that are going to debut at Elimination Chamber. You can make Bayley and Sasha the inaugural champions, go right ahead, but by WrestleMania, the champions have to be Billie and Peyton. So they come out with their championships, gloating about how they have them, they have each other. Charlotte and Becky have nothing. They go after Charlotte and Becky. They basically, one by one, double team each of them in individual shows. And what it basically amounts to is eventually Becky and Charlotte have to come to the realization that continuing to fight one another and be divided, they're not going to get anywhere. Which is how they finally able to make amends, team up with one another, go after the Iconics, beat Billie and Kay, become tag team champions, and now you have the position to make T-Generation X the most dominant, exciting tag team, men or women, in WWE right now. And it's not just the fact that, well, something like that. I'll get to that, James, because I've looked at this going even farther than just reuniting Becky and Charlotte and making them tag champions and bringing back in full, really showing the full potential of a T-Generation X tag team. Because I've looked at what more you can do, how you can take this even further. And it actually starts with one thing. Now, obviously, if neither one of them is the women's champion, obviously people are going to be asking, well, what happens with Ronda Rousey? Someone's got to take that title away from her for good eventually. Yes. And I have the name for you right here. The person who needs to ultimately overtake Ronda Rousey as women's champion is Ruby Riott. So what you have here is, by the summer, you'll have Charlotte and Becky as the tag team champions. You'll have Ruby Riott as the women's champion. Now, Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan team up. They go after Charlotte and Becky. They want the tag team champions. They're out to make the Riott Squad have all the gold. Have them be the biggest faction in WWE. So now you've got all the summer to have an angle of T-Generation X versus the Riott Squad. Now here's the thing. I'll get to that. I don't really know about that. Maybe I'll talk more about Dominoes later, but sorry, you got me off on a different subject. But anyway, like I said, you could milk a TX versus Riott Squad angle through pretty much the entire summer. Now, ultimately, maybe there could be a trade-off in titles back and forth, but ultimately, they have to. The summer will still end with TX still being tag team champions. Once they're done with the Riott Squad, then, starting in the fall, you can start up an angle where Bayley and Sasha will challenge Charlotte and Becky for the tag team titles. This is where Ronda Rousey comes back into play. You can have your title match of T-Generation X versus the Boss and Hug Connection, but it gets interfered with by Ronda and the new MMA Horsewomen squad that she's been building up all this time. So now you've got Ronda's Horsewomen faction going up against not just Becky and Charlotte, but Sasha and Bayley as well. And that's how you build your way to a Horsewomen versus Horsewomen angle and match at Survivor Series. See, I've been thinking this up all the way. Anyone, I'm going to put this on YouTube. Anyone wants to forward this the WWE offices, if they don't have this idea already, I'm hoping someone already does, give me a chance to write this thing. People don't like the way WWE's been booked right now. Give me the opportunity, because I know how to book storylines. I know how to write. I'm not trying to brag about this or anything, because I'm not the most knowledgeable guy about wrestling, but that it basically is the essence where people are saying that WWE's booking and writing isn't very good right now, and they may have some points to it that they're not planning ahead. They haven't been planning ahead down the line far enough, and that very well may be the case. But these smart fans aren't doing it either. They don't have a vision for what's going on down the line for this entire year. All they think of is, make Becky beat everybody. I'm sorry, but that's boring. There's not a story there. Especially since I don't think there's that many great heels outside of Ruby Riott for Becky to challenge on Raw. There's so much better potential storylines in bringing Charlotte and Becky back together as a team as soon as possible, by the spring at least. And that's why I think that the best thing WWE can do is get that started in motion, and it begins by having that triple threat match. Charlotte and Becky versus Ronda for the title at WrestleMania.